Hey guys, what's going on? Druzy here, back again with another South Park Phone Destroyer video and another style beginner guide video here on the channel today, as many of you have been asking for this video for a while now, and of course you're finally going to get it today. My top 15 epic cards currently in South Park Phone Destroyer. Now, some of the cards on this list actually have been changing fairly recently over the last couple, or at least over the last balance changes that came out, because a couple of epic cards received some changes that actually kind of helped them in their case to make this list. There were at least one card for certain that would have not made this list otherwise that now is on this list because of some of the changes that have happened. And one card has actually moved down a little bit on this list because of another change that's happened to them as well. So there are a lot of strong epic cards within this game. It was relatively harder than you would think to narrow this down to 15 cards. I didn't want to do a top 10 for this because I felt like there were quite a few epics that are really strong right now. And there are more strong epic cards that are beyond just this top 15 list. But these, to me, personally, are the top 15 epic cards in the game, ranked in the order of what I think is the top 15th card. So we're starting with number 15. We'll work our way to number 1. And, of course, as many of you will debate with me down below in the comment section, which is completely fine. I appreciate your guys' input on these style of videos. But, as I said, these are my own opinions. I don't get this from any other source, anything like that. This isn't necessarily the top 15 played cards, anything like that. It's more or less just based on strength, and I will give you reasons as to why I think they are in the top 15 list. But these, again, my opinion, why I think they are in the top 15. So, of course, let's start with 15. So starting off at number 15 is Santa. Now, some of you might think that Santa may be a little bit higher up this list. I feel like Santa's one of the stronger tank cards in the entire game for a variety of different reasons. His health scaling isn't as insane as some of the other ones, but he does have a knockback on his basic attack. His basic attack hits a little bit harder than most of the other cards as well, and his charge ability is insanely strong and viable and makes a lot of charge cards even better than they were before, and is almost necessary in a lot of adventure locked style accounts. It's not 100% necessary, but fairly necessary in a lot of decks to really just ultimately increase the overall strength of the decks as themselves. It pairs very well with Hanky as well, a legendary card, which can also help Santa become even more powerful by increasing his charge on his charge. I know, it's like a charge within a charge within a charge, and a whole bunch of other things like that. But that's a lot of the reasons to me why Santa is viable and worthy to be in this top 15 list. So let's just move on to number 14. To me is Toolshed. Now, Toolshed has been kind of up and down. A lot of people consider him a high tier card right now for superheroes. He's very strong for superheroes. He's insanely strong in lower arenas and is used widely down there, more so than you see him in Legendary Arena, but he's still viable in Legendary Arena. I use him in my superheroes deck for the most part, mainly because his charge, I think, is slightly undervalued. It disables an enemy trap, which honestly you don't see a lot of enemy traps much in this game unless you're going up against another superhero player in lower arena that's most likely going to have a Toolshed themselves, maybe run Lava or General Disarray. So it's good to cancel out the Lavas or cancel out another Toolshed or another Chomper. And then he places a Chomper himself, and the Chomper does a really good job of doing a brief stun, a brief amount of damage, and, well, not brief, but a decent amount of damage. And oftentimes that damage, or at least that stun, can really help kind of Toolshed get a second basic attack, help maybe some other support units get some damage onto another unit that otherwise would possibly kill you, or make it to a potential to where you could stop a charge ability or another attack from an enemy unit that may otherwise have killed Toolshed or killed another unit, or so on and so forth. And can kill usually a couple of different swarm units as well with the Chomper if placed at the right time and in the right place. So there are obviously some upsides to Toolshed, and that's why he is valuable and enough for me to make this list. Alright guys, coming in at number 13 we have Marcus. Now Marcus has been probably on this list for a long time, even though a surprising amount of people don't really utilize the strength of Marcus. Marcus only became stronger by having Frontier Bradley be added to the game, because now his basic attacks, obviously with Frontier Bradley in your deck, can do AoE attacks as well. But that charged ability that he throws the pillow, dealing can do a pretty solid amount of damage to an enemy new kid, and that's the main focus of him. He's basically like a mild headhunter card. His basic attack hits not very strong, but very fast. He has a very quick basic attack animation, and he also has pretty decent health scaling for a fighter card, so he can survive a decent amount of time. Yes, he's a 4 energy cost unit, which is a mild disadvantage, but with the value he provides, it's more than fair for some of the value he can provide by doing good chip damage. He's used in anyone that runs any style of chip deck whatsoever, which is obviously most people that run Adventure run some variation of chip. With Marcus, Ink and Craig, generally they run now Dar now and a few other cards, maybe Pope Timmy as well, to get as much chip as quickly as possible on the enemy new kid, and Marcus is probably the best way to do that. But again, he has other value in other areas other than just his chip damage. His chip damage is the main, value of him, obviously, and then his basic attack attacks very quickly, which is very undervalued by some people and don't really utilize him maybe as much as they would have before. But I do have at number 12 Fastpass. Now this card would not have made this list prior to the balance changes that happened most recently. And Fastpass had an increase to his overall charge damage as well as an increase to his overall health scaling as well. I don't believe his base attack got any buff whatsoever, but he didn't need it. His health scaling is now pretty solid. It's not the best, but it's pretty solid for what he provides. He's a 3 energy cost fighter card that can do insane chip damage to multiple units and even to the new kid if you place him at the right time or your opponent places their units in a kind of unfortunate spot. You can take advantage of it. It is a slight nuance to use Fastpass correctly, but I feel like with the changes that he received to his charge damage was extremely valuable to him and made him a much stronger card overall. And yes, his health scaling was nice as well. He's able to survive maybe 1, maybe 2 more attacks that he maybe otherwise wouldn't have survived. So Fastpass is in a really good spot right now, and I think has overtaken Toolshed. Beforehand, I would say that even Human Kite was better than Fastpass, and that's hard to say because Human Kite really isn't super strong right now in the meta. He's stronger in lower arenas, but in Legendary Arena, you're not going to see him hardly at all. But you see Fastpass now in Legendary Arena. You did not see Fastpass before, and now he's even more of a nuisance in lower arenas as well because of this. And he's going to provide more value in any other game mode you use him with, especially in Team Wars. Think of a level 14 new kid getting the ridiculous chip damage potential from a high-level Fastpass. That could be insane in Team Wars and things like that. So it just provides him a ton more value to me than Toolshed. That's why he's higher up on the list than him. But now let's just keep moving on through the list, guys. Coming in at number 11, we have Choirboy Butters. Now, some of you might think that Choirboy deservedly needs to be higher up on this list. And there's a reason why he's a little bit lower, because there's been some new epic cards that have been added to the game that have kind of over-trumped Choirboy Butters. Choirboy Butters hits like a Mack truck. That's one thing that he's always been able to do. His scaling is really good in his damage department. He has a little bit lower attack speed than some of the other assassin options that he has. I think he's one of the slowest of all the Butters right now. And his Death Wish gives a little extra energy. His Death Wish is pretty underwhelming and pretty much worthless. It's his 2 energy cost is the big value and the big focus of Choirboy Butters and why he's so good. Because if you can just pretty much almost get him out multiple times throughout a match. And yeah, towards the end game when you get the double energy anyways, then you also have the ability to where his Death Wish is going to provide maybe some value towards the end, but in the early game it's going to provide pretty much almost no value whatsoever. It might get you maybe half or a fourth of energy back for his cost. It's not like you're getting 1 energy back or something like that to where he's only a 1 cost energy card. It's not anywhere to that level. But Choirboy Butters, again, hits like a Mack truck, has a very low energy cost, which is a big plus on both ends. And with someone like Space Pilot Bradley, he can be a monster if used or paired with him. Alright guys, coming in at number 10, we have Pocahontas Randy. Now, Pocahontas Randy, to me, is one of the stronger Randy cards within the game. He hits very fast, very hard, because of the buffs that he's received to his overall base attack, as well as his attack speed was always very good, and it's remained that way. And the buff that he has immensely received from Frontier Bradley, the fact that both him and his spawn units will do the AoE basic attacks from Frontier Bradley's proc of his ability is very, very nice for Pocahontas Randy. He doesn't have the greatest of health scaling. I think it's a little bit lower than some of the other maybe Section on Randy, I believe. Or it might be even, maybe, but I believe it's a little bit less. But that's necessary because of how hard he hits and how fast he can hit. He can just do an insane amount of damage. He can take bars by himself if left alone on New Kid and things like that, and can deal with some of the other Randys. And I think he can actually beat one level lower 6th element Randy with him being one level higher if he just does his basic attack and doesn't do anything else because of just how hard and how fast he hits. So there's upside to Pocahontas Randy. That's why he very much deservedly deserves to be on this list, but it's going to be coming here at number 10 for me. Coming up just above him is, I think, the best version of Randy in the game right now, and that's the Amazingly Randy. The Amazingly Randy just provides a ton of value. He has great range. He's a range card. He's the only range card version of the Randy cards right now. He has very good scaling in both departments, does good damage, has good range, like I said, and his charge ability, the summon of the 2 magical cocks from thin air, is an insanely good ability, but just because of the fact that the cocks themselves have been buffed multiple times and are now in a really good spot right now, and you seem to be able to get them back a decent amount of time within him being on the field. Because he's a range card instead of being a fighter card, he's not up in the action. He's a little bit off to the side or back behind, hopefully a kind of a push on your end. Because of that, he can be able to spawn his summon or his charge ability usually multiple times, and because of that, I think provides a little bit more value than what you could from maybe Pocahontas Randy. So I feel like Pocahontas Randy is going to die much faster just because he has to be kind of up in the fight and up in the engagement. Because Amazingly Randy can be off, again, in range, it gives him more value, right? That's generally the reason because of that, but because also the other things with the buffs to his summon unit, as well as his overall range and damage that they can potentially put out, I just think he provides a ton of value for you. Coming number 8 is Sorceress Liane. Now this is a card I've kind of slept on, but a lot of people much higher level and much more skilled at this game than me have preached about how strong Sorceress Liane is, and I've seen her be used quite a bit often more in higher tier Legendary Arena and in Legendary Arena altogether. Haven't seen her much in the lower arenas of Silver or in Bronze Shield, because I don't remember what arena you actually unlock her in, but I think some people just really look at her, say her energy cost, and think, well, for 5 energy, am I really getting my value? Oftentimes you're getting more than your value for the energy cost with what she could take away. Yes, her Death Wish could randomly take away your cards, but most likely, if you use it correctly, you can use it to force the opponent to play a different card. Even if you cancel her out, unless she's transmogrified, if you just cancel her with, say, Unholy Combustion, or even kill her with, say, Kenny, like Inuit Kenny, something like that, she's still going to get off her Death Wish ability, even if she's canceled that way. You have to completely transform her to cancel out her ability to do her Death Wish. So, like Medusa Bebe, if Medusa Bebe kills her, turns her into a snake, that would cancel out her Death Wish. So unless you cancel out the Death Wish, you could be in potentially a lot of trouble with Sorceress Liane coming down lane at you. Sorceress Liane is just a great initiation card to kind of start maybe at the beginning of a match. Pair it with something like maybe Paladin Butters to give her a shield for a little while to force your enemy to make a play for her. And if you don't, you can just basically almost get a free bar out of her if she's high enough level, attacking the new kid with her own damage, because her own damage is actually pretty solid for her as a card, and her health scaling is okay, but most people use her for the Death Wish in itself. That is basically cock magic, but in a different version. It also does damage, similar to like Warboy Tweak is basically hyperdrive, but can also do damage and can stay on the field as well and help you in other ways. So she has multiple tiers of value, and that's why she's a little bit higher up on the list than some of the other people, and I currently have her at 8. Alright guys, coming in at number 7, I have Hermes Kenny. Hermes Kenny, for a long time, was considered one of the top epic cards in the game. He just provides so much value with his Death Wish, granting double energy for 2 seconds. He hits hard, he attacks pretty fast, he moves pretty quickly, and he's just great value for most mystical users. Will run energy staff with Hermes Kenny for obviously to get that double energy regeneration. And in late game, paired with energy staff, you just get so much energy back. It's kind of almost difficult to deal with mystical at times because they're just able to pump so much out. So there's a lot of pros and cons to Hermes Kenny, or a lot of pros, I mean. There are some cons to Hermes Kenny. He doesn't attack as fast as some assassins. There are some assassins that do attack faster than he does and can cancel him out. And if you put a card down at the right time, you can cancel him. But some people almost use Hermes Kenny more so not just for his attack and his damage output, but for his Death Wish altogether, just to get that energy consumption back. Can be so valuable, especially in some of these, mystical paired decks that are paired with usually high energy cost style decks, that you just almost need Hermes Kenny to make it that much more valuable. So there's a lot of pros to Hermes Kenny. That's obviously why he would make this list, and I have him where I have him at. Coming in at number 6, we have Mr. Slave. I think Slave might be one of, if not the strongest tank in the game right now. His Enrage has gotten a nice buff. This was a few updates ago, but it's almost undervalued to some people. Not everyone. There are a lot of people that understand the strength of Mr. Slave. If you don't attack him with enough damage and let his Enrage continue to go on, then he will continue to gain health back, to where he almost feels like he can't die. And if you really don't deal with him with an assassin unit or something that hits hard enough and fast enough, you're going to have a tough time dealing with Slave. His health scaling is very solid. It's not amazing, but it's great. He doesn't do hardly any damage, but he's a tank. He's not really supposed to be doing that. But if you pair him with someone like Ninju, or something else that can boost up his damage overall, then he can actually do some pretty solid damage for you and make it to where, he can actually provide that much more equal value, right? But more or less, it's just Enrage, and his Death Wish when he dies will spawn multiple cock units, similar to what the Death Wish of Sorceress Liane does, to where you can then have that be used in your favor as well. As he levels up, he will get more and more units that he will spawn. At level 5, he will spawn 5 units, and I don't think it goes beyond 5, to be honest with you, even if he's at level 6. Maybe it does, I don't know. Maybe if you guys have a level 6 Slave, you can let me know, but I'm pretty sure he maxes out at 5 cock units that he will spawn when he dies, regardless of level. But I could be wrong, I'm not 100% on that. But I do like Mr. Slave. Again, I think he's one of the top tanks in the entire game. And I'm sure a lot of you will probably agree with that. And most likely should, I think, because he really is very strong. Number 5 is my favorite card in the entire game and my favorite character in the entire South Park show, Professor Chaos. I think this is, right now at the recording of this video, the single strongest superhero card in the entire game right now. He's good on all levels of PvP. He's good in everything. There's not a lot of weakness to Professor Chaos. Do you remember when Professor Chaos used to do his own Warcry damage to his friendly units? Because I do, because that's how he was when he first came out of the game, and then Red Links removed that like a month later. But Professor Chaos does that immunity to mind control, is very undervalued. It's really great to deal with sci-fi, which means you're not going to get controlled by Mecha Timmy. You're not going to be controlled. You can easily cancel out something like Cyborg Kenny and not worry about mind control. Mind control is being used a lot more in the meta right now because of Dar, and because of that, Professor Chaos is immune to that as well, obviously. His Warcry does a cone of damage in front of him. It's a very small cone, but it's a cone in front of him, and will stun them for 2 seconds as well. That stun can be really nice. It can help you be able to maybe do a couple of basic attacks and kill a unit. If paired with some other cards, can do things like that. The trick with Professor Chaos that I find oftentimes, if you're running against someone playing superheroes, use your Professor Chaos second. Don't use it first. If you use it first, oftentimes you usually lose the engagement. But if you're dealing with a bunch of swarm cards, Professor Chaos is a great way of dealing with swarms. He's just great all around. There's not really a weakness to Professor Chaos right now, in my opinion. I think he's one of the most well-balanced cards in the game right now. And because he took away the damage to friendly units, that makes him even better. But he's a very strong card, obviously, and my favorite overall in the entire game. Coming in at number 4, Frontier Bradley. One of the newest cards, I believe actually the newest card at the recording of this video in the game right now. Frontier Bradley is a very strong card. All the Bradley cards are strong, guys. Let's just be real. And he gives allied fighters an increase to their base attack damage, and they also, any ones that didn't have an AoE basic attack before, now do. So he has a ton of potential, a ton of value. Bradley is good in pretty much every game mode. He's been used a lot in weekend events over the last couple of weeks. Finally, Red Links took him out for, I think, the last 2 weeks, which has been a nice, healthy refresh to not have Frontier Bradley to deal with. But Frontier Bradley is insanely strong, has a ton of value, is a very good card overall. And I feel like at some point he's probably going to get nerfed to some degree. I don't know what the nerf would actually be, but Who knows? I think that something will end up happening to Frontier Bradley to kind of bring him in line. I don't think he's as strong at ladder as another Bradley that we're going to talk about. That's why he's lower on the list. But I think in like Team Wars and things like that, he is maybe the strongest Bradley for Team Wars. Maybe outside of maybe Mintberry Crunch. Because he's just going to provide so much value to if you get a fighter card to stay alive. And against a level 14 Nukin in Team Wars, Frontier Bradley, if he's not canceled out, is going to decimate. And going to help you just be that much stronger in it. He was definitely the winner in this last Team Wars over Space Pilot Bradley. But yeah, Frontier Bradley just provides a ton of value. He's a good card. I don't think he's overpowered. I think he's very strong. I don't think he's overpowered. A lot of people will be like, oh, he's OP. He needs to get nerfed immediately. He needs to get tweaked. I'm not going to argue that, but I don't think he needs to get completely wipely nerfed. I think he's just, again, strong, but not overpowered in my opinion. Now let's move on to number 3. Alright guys, so coming to number 3, right above Frontier Bradley, is what I think the strongest Bradley in the game, Space Pilot Bradley. Now, in all honesty, before his nerf, Space Pilot Bradley to me was the strongest epic card in the entire game. He was insanely strong. You can have him at level 2 and he'd still be as viable as he'd be at level 5. I mean, he'd be more valuable at level 5, but his value didn't seem to really increase exponentially as he leveled up through the meta, just because of how strong his ability is. Those allied assassins are sped up, and when they spawn, they stun nearby enemies. It used to be for 2 seconds. It's now down to 1.2. That does scale up as you level him up, so there is still some value there. His health and damage are they're not the greatest in the world, but it's his ability that makes him so good. He's so viable in ladder right now. A lot of people have him at 3, maybe some have him at level 4. And at level 3, he's still very viable at high tier Legendary Arena. Some of the higher end players use him even at lower levels. I mean, I don't know anybody that has him to 5 yet. And even if they did, I'm not saying that he's exponentially better than he'd be at 3. He'd be better, but not, again, exponentially. And I think he's better than Frontier Bradley on ladder. That's why he's above Frontier Bradley. Frontier Bradley is better for Team Wars and better for more of the other event style things. But honestly, for ladder currently, even with the nerf, Space Pilot Bradley to me provides more value overall. He's more of a nuisance. Those assassin units can absolutely decimate. And he just provides so much potential for so many cards that maybe weren't really seen as that good and now are insanely better. Plus, I mean, a lot of people pair him with Mystical, and Mystical already were strong with their 2 epic assassins anyways. Obviously, both of them made this list, so because of that, he just makes them that much stronger. So there's a lot of reason to like Space Pilot Bradley, and to me, why he's number 3 overall. Alright guys, so for the last 2, I'm sure a lot of you guessed what the last couple of cards were going to be. Pope Timmy to me is the number 2 epic card in the game. He has still insane value right now. The fact that he can Warcry revive the last killed unit instantly is very nice. I mean, obviously you can cancel out Pope Timmy hopefully beforehand to where he doesn't respawn that unit, but he can respawn anything that was the last unit died. It doesn't matter the energy cost. That's why his value is insane. He has good scaling on both his health and his damage output. Yes, he's an expensive card, but that's on purpose. He used to be 7 energy. He's now 6. And even at 6, a lot of people have debated and have constantly stated that Pope Timmy needs to go back to 7 energy cost. I don't necessarily 100% disagree with that. I'm not saying that it absolutely needs to be that way, but Pope Timmy, even for 6 energy, has one of the highest value cards in the entire game right now, because he can bring back even say something like Call Girl, who can then bring back another energy cost unit on top of that. There's just so much potential that he has as far as resummoning back cards that are just insanely good and valuable to you. He can even resurrect someone like Dar and then summon that person back to a better level. There's just a lot of potential. He can bring back Egan Craig that can do even more damage to Nukid and chip away. The options are endless almost with Pope Timmy, and that's why, again, he's so good, so strong, and definitely number 2 overall. And as many of you obviously guessed what my number 1 was going to be, it's of course Dark Angel Red, or Dar as she's well known, and Dar is insane. She has been insane since she's been added. She's still insane to this day. And until Red Links does something about her, she's always going to be insane, probably. I think that the only thing you really need to do is just make her 4 energy cost. I think that's really it. Everything else about her is fine. She's not insanely overpowered. The big overpower aspect of her is for her low energy cost of 3, the value that she provides and being able to basically revive the any card in front of her that's an ally or the nearest card to her that's at least 5 energy costs or less is insane, because there's so much potential for that. Almost every tank card in the game, but I believe just Man-Bear Pig, there might be one other one I could be, and Maxi, I guess, can be basically re-brought back all the way back to full health. I mean, it's insane. A lot of people use her with, say, Zen Cartman, even though Zen Cartman's only 3 energy. The fact that you can reposition Zen back on your side of the field, maybe, and at full health, to just continue to be that ooming annoyance that he is. There's just, again, so much potential with Dar, to the same level that Pope Timmy. That's why these two are so high up on this list, more so than some of the other ones. But Dar, to me, it will be the strongest and one of the top 5 cards in the game overall right now, until something is done with her. And as of right now, Red Lynx has made no, it looks like, plans to do anything with her. But they need to, because she is a big nuisance of the game, a reason why a lot of people are leaving the game, and has made Mystical one of the strongest, if not the strongest theme overall in the game right now, because of her. She's one of the big reasons for that, and that's scary to think that one card can really provide that much value. But I mean, the top 2 cards in Epic cards, in my opinion, are both Mystical for a variety of reasons. Mystical has a ton of strong Epic cards. As you saw, many of them have been put in this top 15 list, so there's just a lot to go on. But to me, that is the top 15 Epic cards right now in South Park Phone Destroyer as of the recording of this video. Obviously, this may change in the future when balance changes and things like that. Cards will constantly be rebalanced to where I may have to update this video in the future. If so, I will do so when enough cards to me have made the list that I feel like it's valuable to redo this list. If like one card changes in the top 15, I don't see the point of rechanging this whole video. But if enough do, then I will definitely do so. But again, this was a very highly requested video, and I definitely wanted to make this video, but I've been a little bit lazy about making it. So I do appreciate you guys' patience. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know the debates will be wide throughout the course of the comment section of this video, but again, this was a highly requested video, one that I've been working on for a little while now, and finally been able to give it to you here today. So hopefully this video helps you, to any of the newer players that are kind of new to the game, didn't really know what Epic cards to be investing into. These are definitely 15 solid ones, and there are others as well that you should consider as also, and those will come up sporadically in other videos and other things like that in the future. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and this video helped out the newer players out, kind of learn some of the top Epic cards in the game. But thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, guys, my name is Druzy.